Now let's see if you remember this group of inspiring Australians. Ready please, Mr. Music?
We've been through some tough times, we've been down and out, but there is only one thing now for us to sing and shout. We're not spending any time looking where we've been. The only way is forward now. Crown Petroleum.
These days they're called the Choir of Hope and Inspiration. Originally came to our attention on the TV as the Choir of Hard Knocks. They've been singing and inspiring people for around about 5 years now, and they are heading to Queensland in just a couple of weeks because the Choir of Hope and Inspiration has been appointed the ambassadors of Mental Health Week here in Queensland. Mental Health Week begins on October the 9th. And it's a campaign to get us thinking about, talking about, understanding mental illness. Taking an approach this year that draws on the experience we had through the floods and the cyclones, that awful summer just gone. And we saw tremendous cooperation between individuals and communities, and the organisers want to draw on that spirit in the way we approach mental illness issues in our community. The idea of you lent a hand, now lend an ear. Dr. Jonathan Welch is the artistic director for the Choir of Hope and Inspiration, and he's absolutely delighted that the choir has been chosen for this role as ambassador for Mental Health Week 2011.
Well, yes, I've been dealing, I suppose, with lots of the choir members for the last decade, not only in Choir of Hard Knocks, but also the choir I created first, Sydney Street Choir, that are about to celebrate their 10th anniversary, in fact, next month. But personally, I've had some of my own family members deal with mental health issues. My younger sister has schizophrenia, and I had an aunt with mental health issues, and I have a niece now who's been dealing with eating disorder issues, and I've had a little bout of depression myself. So all those things combined, I suppose, give me some opportunity to have a better understanding of what people deal with, but the importance really of people supporting each other and not only lending a hand, but also lending an ear and making sure that we give time to each other to just have a chat and just check how we're doing. I think Queensland's actually had a really, really difficult time the last year, and beyond, obviously, the rebuilding of a lot of the devastation from the floods and the storms, etc., would be to make sure that people are actually keeping an eye out for people beyond that, because I think the emotional and psychological scars that can manifest from going through such traumatic times often don't surface for some period of time.
And certainly the floods, the Cyclone Yasi further north, we did have a horrible time for months there, and there are people still doing it tough as a result. But the lesson out of that, the way people pulled together during those hard times, if you could just bring that spirit to other times and other situations, we'd be doing really well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that the choir's coming up here for the first time during this week. And I think the choir members personally were very disturbed and very upset by what they saw. It's hard enough coping sometimes with day-to-day life and the pressures of work and family and paying the mortgage and keeping a roof over our heads. But when you have the kinds of situations that you've had here in Queensland, that just escalates everything many-fold. And there's some great organisations doing fantastic things here. I'd like to direct everybody to mentalhealthweek.com.au also if they'd like to find out more about where they can get support, and also about Mental Health Week and the kinds of things that you can do do, which don't have to be anything other than just showing interest and concern for your fellow neighbour, you know, your family members and friends, and also your work colleagues. I think we spend a lot of time these days at work, and you know, that's an area also too when people are under pressure. You can really start to see, you know, cracks appear, and often just, you know, a lovely, friendly voice and the offer of the opportunity to sit down and have a cup of tea is sometimes what people need.
Jonathan, you quite happily came on the radio and in introducing yourself talked about how you've had a bout with depression. Now, a lot of people, particularly in regional parts of Australia, would find that a very daunting thing to have to, you know, state for the record, look, yeah, I have got a problem. We tend to keep all that inside and not acknowledge it. How hard a step was it for you to sort of recognise it and put your hand up?
To be quite honest, quite difficult. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that I was actually asked to tell my own story and write my autobiography that I actually felt very comfortable about talking about it, and I really wanted to have the opportunity to write about it first and probably tell my own story rather than just talking about it on radio or in the media in the first instance. And the Choir of Hard Knocks journey was really very much about the choir members, and I wanted it to be about, you know, their stories and how music can really help people come together and create a real sense of community and connection and support. But for me, I suppose the story is exactly the same. It's been very much, music's been very much a very important part of my life, that during difficult times I've known that I've always had music and singing there, but also the people and the friendships that I've made through my music career and all the activities that I do are a very important part of my life. And the choir still today are in fact about to celebrate their 5th anniversary tomorrow. It'll be 5 years since the Choir of Hard Knocks began rehearsing tomorrow. The choir is a very important part of my life, and all those friendships through the choir members, but also the staff and the volunteers and everybody that I have and I associate with, really bring huge meaning to my life. And I think that's what everybody will see when the choir comes up for real for the first time in October, and just how much resilience I think the choir members have, and so much, not only the sense of hope I suppose they bring other people, but how much this project means to them, and they've had an opportunity themselves to make a contribution back to the community and to be acknowledged for that.
And they have taken a very powerful step in involving themselves in something, getting into a group enterprise and being active, being busy, having